game over, man. It's game over.
Hi, folks, and welcome to the Salty Seaman. You know, a lot of times when I do these military movie bullshits, I get asked a lot of questions and get a lot of requests for more sci-fi bent military movies. Now, honestly, so many sci-fi movies with a military bent are too far removed from what the military actually is. I can't give it a fair, chewing out because it's the future or it's fantasy or whatever. But there's still a lot of those great movies out there, some of which I can still do and some will be on this list. But a lot, I'm just not going to do. But I thought it would be fun if I just give like my top 10 of the best military sci-fi and fantasy movies of all time. Now, just to let you know, some of these movies I may do in the future because the at least basis of the movie is the real world where the military rules would still apply. Others, obviously, I can't do because I can't put military realism on something that's so far flung in the future or as a fantasy setting. Number 10, Aliens. Now, you knew this had to be on the list. We're talking about the original of the Space Marines, the Alien franchise. Now, just so you know, for this whole list, I'm only doing one per franchise, so this is the one I chose for Aliens, and I thought it was the most militaristic bent. Of course, the first two movies are the best. Number 2, of course, has like a group of Space Marines trying to fight off the alien invasion, which is, of course, the xenomorphs of the Alien franchise. This movie is almost actually a Western more than anything else, which kind of makes it a very interesting movie. But overall, I mean, there's so many great quotes from this. There's so many just awesome scenes. It's an iconic movie. It's an interesting look at Marines in the future. Absolutely one of my all-time favorite movies. Number 9, The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. It's part 2 of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. It's the one with the giant battle in Helm's Deep. It's about my only foray into fantasy in this, just because there's not a lot of fantasy movies that have a lot of great military bent. Fantasy tends to go into smaller groups, singular heroes or a small group. But this one absolutely makes it just for the Battle of Helm's Deep. It's the army of the people of good versus the army of the orcs and the elephants. And they're way outnumbered and they're trying to defend Helm's Keep. And it's amazing, just great direction, great special effects. You know, you think it's where they throw in like these elephant things. That has happened in the past. You go look at medieval times and even before, elephants have been used, which kind of makes this interesting beyond like Tolkien basically based this on an actual battle he was in World War I. And it's great rooting for the good guys, trying to defend this. And, in terms of military, I mean, who knows how accurate it is to the Lord of the Rings world, but it's certainly a good time was had by all that was watching it. Number 8, Starship Troopers. This is one of my top requests and that I can't do because it's a far-flung future Marine movie, but it's so fun. It's so cheesy. There's so many great lines, and it is kind of a spin-off of Aliens. It's battling bug things in space, and you see a lot of, how they train, and, they go through a boot camp, and then they go out into their first battle, and it sucks, and everyone gets killed, and they have to regroup and, find their courage, and, there's so many fucking great lines in this movie. I mean, I could go on and on about the wonderful cheesiness that is Starship Troopers, but if you're watching this, you probably already know, and you definitely know it belongs on this list. Number 7, Star Trek 4. Like I said, I'm keeping it one to a franchise, and this is my favorite Star Trek movie, so fuck you if you don't like it, and you think there's a better Star Trek military movie. I would disagree with you, because in this one, we have a court-martial, we have an admiral being busted to captain, and we have a crew that's fucking AWOL the entire movie, and they're going to go save a fucking whale. Back in 1985, okay? It's goddamn awesome. Obviously, the Navy of Star Trek is completely different than our modern-day Navy, other than some ranks, but the Star Trek, watching Star Trek as a naval guy, I've always enjoyed it, and this movie in particular, it has the military elements, and it just has all the humor, and just a great story, a great environmental message to it. I can't recommend Star Trek for the Voyage Home enough. Number 6, going back to another franchise, Star Wars Rogue One just came out last year. You say, like, how do you pick the brand new Star Wars movie as the best Star Wars movie of all time for military? Well, it's the most militaristic. Like, every movie we have space battles, we have samurai battles. We don't have a lot of like ground troops fighting it out. This movie gave it to us, and oh my god, did they fucking deliver. Rogue One is what anyone who likes military and war and Star Wars finally got. Just a wonderful, wonderful battle between a rogue force trying to figure out, you know, its own military structure realistically, and a very, you know, Nazi-ish, already built army trying to fight them and keep them from taking some bad information. It's fantastic. I'd say of all the Star Wars movies, it's the most militaristic and absolutely a gem to behold. Number 5, Independence Day. This is definitely one I could do on the military movie bullshit because it starts off in kind of reality before the aliens come. If you know this movie, this kind of reset the bar for big blockbuster sci-fi action movies, especially with like a sci-fi alien bent. You got Will Smith, you got Dennis Quaid, you got all these great characters, you got the president flying himself out to go fight the aliens along with the military forces of the world. What else can you say about it? It's a classic for a reason. Number 4, Predator. Another one I'm most likely going to do as a military movie bullshit because it does begin in reality. A group of special forces go to find this crazy thing out in the jungle that's killing people. Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger is our main protagonist. He goes fights the alien predator, and it's a badass fight. They're special forces. Even before all the rest of his team dies, they do a lot of cool, badass spec war shit. I mean, how can you go wrong? It's a classic for a reason. Number 3, Avatar. Almost didn't want to put this on the list. This is just for the reason of, it's not one of my favorite movies, but I think I have to recognize it for what it's done. It is a military movie. It's a Marine who gets injured. He's handicapped. He gets his mind put into an avatar of these creatures that the government is looking to exploit and take over their land, and how he finds it, blah, blah, blah. Story's been done 100 times. However, cinematically, what this movie accomplished is amazing. It's why it's the #1 movie of all time, gross-wise, because it's just super well done, even if the story is kind of basic. Number 2, Captain America, the First Avenger. I mean, it's Cap. What can you do wrong? Another one I could do, because it does start off as regular military until we get the super serum into Steve Rogers. But really, we're talking about, this is a World War II war movie at its heart. The superhero stuff is kind of on the side. You know, we get the Commandos, we have Bucky, and of course we have Steve Rogers, Captain America, out there fighting the Nazis and Hydra. And, you know, it's got a great sci-fi bend. He's a superhero. And we still have a lot of military stuff in there, so that doesn't become, it's the least superhero-y movie, I think, of the Marvel group, because it's a World War II movie with a little bit of superpowers. It's probably one of my favorite of the Marvel movies, and absolutely worth checking out. And my final one on the list, number 1, this is not in order, but Pacific Rim, because I love fighting robots, and oh my god, this gives you fighting robots. I love giant monster movies, kaiju from Japan. This gives me giant kaiju monsters from Japan. This movie answers the age-old question, what does the military do when you're faced with giant kaiju monsters? Well, the only answer is to build giant fucking robots to fight them, right? That only makes fucking sense. Of course that's what you do. That's what I would do if I was a general. Just putting that out there. Fun movie, amazing effects. It's just a beautiful explosion of everything you love in an action movie, especially if you have love for the old school B-movie monster robot piloted mecha anime. It's amazing. Anyway, that's going to do it for the Salty Seaman for this video. If you have any other suggestions for some sci-fi fantasy I might have missed, please let me know. Any other military movie bullshit, other than the couple I mentioned I might be doing here pretty soon, let me know. They have a sci-fi bent, but it has to be based a bit in reality. You know, it has to start off with a normal world, a normal military. It can't be in the future. It can't be in a fantasy setting. If you have any of those suggestions for me, I'd love to hear it in the comments. Subscribe, like if you like this video. If you're a member, if you're already subscribed to me, you know, ring the bell, become part of my notification squad. All the crazy shit that YouTube has us doing these days. Having a lot of fun. Hope you guys are too. Can't wait to see you in the next video. That's all I got for now, freaks. Peace.